I mentioned before in our study of forest practices regulations, which is now needs to be updated because you always change the rules. But in general, on the level of forest practices, when you look at the degree of prescriptive policies in place, things that companies must do on the ground, the standards are relatively high compared to most jurisdictions. Now, whether they're high enough or whether they actually are appropriate, those are debates that all of you have in this room. But when you stand back and compare across jurisdictions, you see this result emerging. I think it's really interesting and speaks to then how we think about whether and what role Canada can play in the global challenges we face. But let's just take the Canadian Boreal Forest Agreement as an example too, and think even about land use questions in general. And I would argue that Canada has an extraordinary history of the last 25 years of bringing stakeholders together around creating durable land use allocation decisions that look at both practices on the one hand, but also protection, biodiversity conservation on the other hand, in ways that are quite extraordinary. I think perhaps New Zealand might be another example, but there aren't many in the world that have this kind of really focused effort.
Legality verification might allow progress and moving forward of the goals we all believe in, which would be economic, social, and environmental sustainability. And I think certainly the big schemes I'm aware of, Lacey Act in the USA, European Union timber regulations, the EU FLEGT regulation, it isn't just, they're not just taking legality as what the national law says necessarily, but are looking as well at what other claims on legality are there in nation states. So I think that's all what people who are interested in this education would applaud.